Hello guys, I hope you all are doing good. I am Vishali Kigan and we are discussing the VLSI technology. In that we are discussing the chemical mechanical polishing, and today this is the introductory video towards the chemical mechanical polishing. What is chemical mechanical polishing? Why we are studying it in the VLSI technology? We are going to tell you about the various introductory questions in this video itself. So today this is going to be a really interesting video, and I hope you all will be staying with me till the end of this video and you are going to get a lot of new information about the chemical mechanical polishing. So the chemical mechanical polishing is abbreviated as CMP, and we are going to discuss it throughout this playlist, and there are a lot of videos on CMP, and the objectives of these videos are to list the applications of the CMP. We are going to see where at all CMP is used. Then we are going to describe the basic structure of a CMP system. Then we are going to describe the slurries for oxide and the metal CMP as well. After that we are going to describe the oxide CMP process and then the metal polishing process. And after that, at the last, we are going to see the post CMP cleaning process. Okay, so all of them are really interesting topics and we are going to see the in-depth analysis of all of them. So first of all, the overview about the CMP. Okay, when we are going to see the multi-layer metal interconnection, we are going to talk about this process of CMP. We are going to talk about the CMP in the planarization of the dielectric layers as well. We have already studied about the various dielectric layers in the playlist where we were discussing about the CVD, right? There I told you there is a requirement of the planarization. Why? First of all, the depth of focus requires the flat surface. So whenever I am going to achieve some resolution for the photolithography process, I am going to make the feature size. So in that case, I need a plane surface so that I can put the wafer at a particular depth so that the depth of focus will be uniform. So depth of focus requires flat surface to achieve high resolution, and high resolution is required so as to get compact and compact IC. The rough dielectric surface can also cause the problems in the metallization. Okay, so we have already talked about metallization, and let me remind you, metallization is a process in which we are forming the metallic interconnects, right? So there are a lot of metallization steps, and all of the steps are based upon the planarized structure of the IC. So for making the planarized structure, CMP is a very important process. So we have already seen this wafer process flow diagram a lot of times. And where is CMP? Okay, so here you can see this is the CMP chart over here. Okay, so now after the dielectric deposition, we have already talked about the CVD. After the CVD and before the metallization, we are doing the CMP so as to get a perfectly smooth surface over which we can do the metallization, right? So CMP is a very important step before the metallization. First of all, we are talking about the tungsten CMP. Okay, the tungsten chemical mechanical polishing. Tungsten has been used to form the metal plugs. We have seen it in the metallization process. The tungsten was a very important metal to form the metal plugs. Plus, the CVD of tungsten fills the contact and the via holes and cover the whole of the wafer, right? So to make the metallic interconnection between the various components, we are using the tungsten. Plus, to make the via hole or the contact hole fill, we are using the tungsten. So we need to remove the bulk tungsten film from the surface. First of all, we were filling the via hole or the contact hole. After that, the bulk tungsten deposition was done, right? And after that, we had to remove the layer to make the structure planarized. So there is a need to remove the bulk tungsten film from the surface. So for that, we can use the fluorine based plasma etchback process, or we can use the CMP process. But the CMP process is far better than the plasma etchback process. I have already talked about the plasma etchback process, right? I hope you remember that. But now the CMP is far better than, it has more advantages than the plasma etchback process, and this is the reason tungsten CMP has replaced the etchback process. Okay, so you can see here at all of these processes we have used the CMP. So this is the CMP of the undoped silicate glass layer. This is the CMP of the PSG layer of the tungsten and the CMP of the USG layer of the tungsten, CMP of the USG layer of the tungsten over here, CMP of the USG layer, right? So at all of these places in the CMOS IC, we are using the CMP. So this is how I can say CMP is a very important process step in the VLSI fabrication. So now what is planarization? I was talking about this term planarization and a lot of people might be getting confused at what is the actual meaning of this word planarization. So we are going to see what is the meaning of this word. So planarization is a process in which we are removing the surface topologies, or we are removing the roughness on the surface and we are making the surface more smoother and more flattened out, right? So this is the process of planarization, in which we are removing the surface topology, surface roughness, making the surface smooth and flattened. So the degree of planarization indicates how much flat or how much smooth my surface is. Okay, so this is how I will be getting the planarized definition, right? And I bet a lot of you might not be now confused in the definition of the planarization. Now the definition of planarization will be clear. So now there is a question. All of these are some structures and I am going to ask which of them is planarized. So can you see the first structure? This structure is planarized or not? So this is a perfectly conformal film and there is no planarization over here. You can see we have the steps, perfect steps over here. There is no planarization at all. So here you can see I have smoothened out the edges. Okay, so you can see it is a smoothened out structure, but it is also not planarized. You can see here we have the upper level, then the lower level, the upper level and the lower level. So it is also not planarized. Okay, so you can see this structure, and if you see this structure from here, you can see this structure is planarized, right? But here at this part, this is the part where we have the discontinuity or the roughness. So it is partial planarization. After that we have the global planarization, in which the structure is planarized all over the length, right? So this is the global planarization. So now coming to the degree of planarity, how I am classifying the planarity. Why is this structure called the global planarization and why this structure is called the partial planarization? Right, we have some mathematical understanding as well, so we are going to see the mathematical understanding. For that you can see this structure, and here you can see this is my structure of the IC and this is my layer that I have deposited, right? So here theta is the angle by which the upper layer and the lower layer is changing in the height. So this is the slope which is denoted by the theta, and r is the distance between the upper level and the lower level, right? So this is how I can define the planarity. So if I have the surface smoothing, so in that case r in the micrometer is only 0.1 to 2.0. Okay, so r is very small, which means at the smaller distance I am getting the roughness, right? Theta is greater than 30, so slope is greater, right? So this is how I will be getting surface smoothing. In the local planarization, r would be better. So r is from 2 to 100 and theta is from 0.5 to 30. Okay, so in 0.5 to 30 my theta or the slope would be, right? And the global planarization says r is greater than 100, which means till 100 micrometer my surface is planar. Okay, there is no discontinuity or roughness in the 100 micrometer range. So this is how I will be getting the global planarization, and the theta is less than 0.5. So now you can see planarization is the smoothing. Okay, and how we are getting the smoothing? Smoothing with the help of decreasing the theta and increasing the r. So smoothing and the local planarization can be achieved with the help of thermal flow process or the H-back process as well. Okay, but so in the smoothing and the local planarization there was no big requirement of r and theta. Okay, so we can achieve it by some simple processes like the thermal flow or H-back. But if I talk about the global planarization, so here if I have a very small feature size like lesser than 0.35 micrometer, it can only be achieved or the planarization of this structure can be achieved by the CMP only. Okay, so this is a very important thing that you can remember. So there are other planarization methods also except the CMP. A lot of you might be confused that only CMP is the method for the planarization. If I have to make any layer plane, there can be another methods as well. So yes, there are 4 methods also which we are going to talk about in this video itself. So first is thermal flow, then we have sputtering etchback, then we have photoresist etchback, then we have spin on glass etchback. So all of them are used for the planarization process. So first of all, we are going to talk about the thermal flow. So as the name suggests, thermal flow is occurring at a higher temperature. How much high temperature? Greater than 1000 degrees Celsius. So it is also called the dielectric planarization, right? So if I have the dielectric and I have to make the dielectric planar, I can use the thermal flow also. But if I have a metal can melt at that temperature of 1000 degrees Celsius. So I cannot use the thermal flow for the metal planarization. I can easily use it for the dielectric planarization. So it can be used for the pre-metal dielectric as well, and it is occurring at a higher temperature. I have already told you, like the 1000 degrees Celsius. So now if I have the phosphosilicate glass or borophosphosilicate glass, they are dielectrics. So they can become soft and start flowing due to the surface tension when we are giving the higher temperature like the 1000 degrees Celsius. So it is making the structure smooth, or it is making the local planarization. So you can see the structure. Here we have the SiO2 layer which is making the structure rough, and here we have the gates also which are making the structure rough. So now here if I have deposited the borophosphosilicate glass over here, so how we can make it planar after the thermal flow? You can see we can give the higher temperature, and after the thermal flow, the borophosphosilicate glass layer is planar as compared to the deposited borophosphosilicate glass layer. You can see the difference between these two pictures, right? So now coming to the etchback. So in the etchback, what we are doing? We are etching the structure, and then again we are depositing, and then again we are etching. So this is a very important process about which we have already talked in the chemical vapor deposition or the CVD videos as well, if you remember. Okay, I hope most of you are remembering this thing. And the etchback, we are having the reflow temperature which is lesser than the reflow temperature for the thermal reflow. Right, in the thermal reflow the temperature was very high. As I told you, it can melt the metals like the aluminium, it can melt aluminium, but we are requiring the reflow of the aluminium as well in some cases. For that I can use the etchback process. So reflow temperature would be lesser than it, and it can be used for the IMD reflow as well. Other planarization method is needed for the IMD other than the thermal reflow, and that is etchback. So it is sputtering etchback and the reactive etchback, both are combined and both are used as a single process. So what is happening in the sputtering etchback? We are using the argon. I have already told you in the CVD process that argon is going to have the higher momentum with a higher velocity. It is going to transfer the velocity or the momentum to the thin film that we have deposited, and when the momentum is transferred, then the atoms are removed from the layer, and this is how we are doing etching. After that we can again do the deposition, and then I can do the reactive etching. So argon sputtering etchback chips off the dielectric at the corners of the gap, and also it can taper the opening. So wherever we have opening, so it can taper the opening. I will show you the figure. So you can see this is the chemical vapor deposition of the USG layer. Okay, so after sputtering etchback of the USG using the argon, you can see we have tapered the openings. You can see it here, right? So with the help of argon and the momentum transfer using argon and the removing of the atoms of the edges at the USG, we can remove these atoms and we can taper these endings, right? So this is the first process that we are doing in the etchback. So after that we have subsequent chemical vapor deposition process which are easily filling the gap with a reasonable planarized surface. So you can see after that we can use the CVD process. So now this CVD of the USG layer is comparatively planar than the first CVD. So you can see this is very rough type of layer that we have, and after that, after sputtering etchback and again after CVD of USG, so this is a comparatively planar layer that we have. Okay, after that we can do the reactive etchback of USG. So you can see it here. The last process is the reactive ion etchback process with CF4 or O2 chemistry, further planarize the surface. So now with all of these process, after the reactive etchback with the help of CF4 and the O2, you can see we have a better planar structure than the first structure. So you can see this is a very important method by which we can do the planarization. So now after that we have the photoresist etchback. In the photoresist etchback, as the name suggests, we are using the photoresist. Okay, so we are doing the spin coating and the baking of the photoresist. So the first process step is the after the oxide deposition. So you can see this is the uneven or the rough structure that we have. Here we have the roughness. Okay, so after that we are going to do the photoresist coating and the baking. So after that, after the baking, we are having a solid photoresist over here. Okay, so after that we are having the planarized solid thin film on the wafer surface, right? You can see that. After that we are using the plasma etch process with CF4 and O2 chemistry. What is happening? So from the CF4 we are getting the fluorine radical. Fluorine radical is used to remove or etch out the oxide. Okay, and the oxygen radical is etching the photoresist. So we can adjust the CF4 and O2 flow ratio, and we can allow the 1:1 ratio to remove out or etch out the photoresist as well as oxide. So we can change this ratio, and we can change the etching rate also, right? So oxide could be planarized after the etchbacks. So sometimes we require 2 to 3 process steps for this removal. So complete cycle is repeated after the second time for this complete process. Okay, so you can see, first of all, I am going again to show you what is happening in the photoresist etchback. First of all, we have done the oxide deposition. This is my oxide layer deposited on the IC, right? After that I have done the photoresist coating and the baking process. After that I have a solid photoresist layer over it, which is a planar layer, right? After that I am going to use the CF4 and the O2 for the photoresist etchback. I have the fluorine ion. Fluorine ion is going to remove the oxygen, okay, oxide layer. And after that I have the oxygen radical. Oxygen radical is going to remove this photoresist layer. Okay, so you can see we have the photoresist layer which is etching faster than the oxide layer. For this reason you can see the continuity is not there. Okay, so the roughness is not removed completely, right? So here you can see we have some kind of roughness present, and for that I can use again this process completely. So I can use 2 cycle of this full process, and then I can get a completely planar surface, right? So when fluorine etches oxide, the oxygen radical will be released and we will be getting higher photoresist etch rate due to the extra oxygen from the oxide removal. Because here if I am using fluorine radical to remove this oxide, so sometimes the oxide radicals are removed from this oxide layer as well. So even if I am using the 1:1 ratio of CF4 and O2, then also I will be getting more of oxygen radicals which are removing the photoresist faster. And the photoresist etchback can't planarize very well, and after the photoresist etchback dielectric film surface is flatter than it is just deposited. So in some cases we can reuse more than one photoresist etchback process, and we can get a better flatness after the 2 or 3 cycles. So now coming to the spin on glass etchback. So spin on glass etchback is actually replacing the photoresist etchback, because I have already told you there is some problem associated with the removal of the photoresist by the extra oxygen radical, and for that we may require 2 to 3 cycles, which is making this process very time consuming. So now we have used SOGS etchback as a replacement towards the photoresist etchback. So there is one more advantage, that some SOG can stay on the wafer surface to fill the narrow gaps as well. So whenever inside the structure we have some narrow gaps, it is going to fill those gaps as well, and it is going to give me planar structure in the gaps as well. So it is making the structure planar, plus if some voids are present, it is going to fill those voids as well. So PECVD, USG liner and the cap layer is used, and USG, SOG and USG gap fill and the surface planarization. This is the process step. I have already demonstrated the process step of the SOG in the previous videos where I was discussing about the chemical vapor deposition. So we can use the 2 SOG coat, cure and etch-back process also, so as to get a better planar structure. So you can see we have used the planarization with the help of SOG etch-back, and here you can see these were the voids which were filled with the SOG process itself. So this is the second advantage the SOG etch-back process is giving, in addition to the first advantage of getting the one cycle in which I can get the planar structure. So I hope you understood each one of these processes. In the next video I am going to talk in detail about the CMP process, and if you want to further study this topic in detail, you can refer these books. These are really amazing books, and you can very well study these topics from these books. If you are getting some doubts, you can put the doubts in the comment, and I am going to talk about these doubts as soon as possible. I'm going to reply to you as soon as possible. I hope you like this session. If you like it, please push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also do share it with your friends. Thank you so much.